The Broncos have a new offensive coordinator. The question is, will he be calling the plays? We're going to talk about it on After the Horn. And if you are a member of the dynasty that is and was the New England Patriots, you're headed to the Hall of Fame.
Maybe.
Not so fast, my friend.
We were just talking about the Barrel Man. He's in that.
Tim McKernan, as
Tim
we said.
McKernan.
Yeah.
United
Baggage handler at United Airlines.
United Airlines mechanic.
Yeah.
Which always made me wonder a little bit.
As long as he was in a different uniform. It was a little better.
Hey, welcome to After the Horn.
I knew him for like 20 years, and I never looked down the barrel.
No.
Me neither.
Smart.
But he was an awfully nice man.
Sure.
He was friendly.
He
He's
was
in the Hall of Fame.
the epitome of Bronco
and he
fandom
was
for many
for
years.
a long time. I'm sure there's a lot of young people that say, what the hell are they talking
Well,
about?
he had a barrel kid that he had a son that would do that, but for people who don't know.
But there's only one barrel
He wore a
man.
barrel that was for the Denver Broncos. He wore cowboy hats and cowboy boots.
Cowboy boots.
And we don't know, like,
That's
Well,
fine.
the story was cowboy hat, cowboy boots,
A barrel.
and a barrel.
Suspenders.
And a barrel.
Now they do the Barrel Man competition, so the legend lives on.
The legend lives on.
But you know what's great about the Barrel Man? It was organic. It wasn't like he won a contest or he just became super fan and he was Barrel Man and we all got to know him.
and he created a cult of there was
yes.
a leprechaun.
Leprechaun.
Oh, yeah.
And it
But
was
the-
like 5 different. Well, they
I'm
do
sorry,
that.
though. The
Interesting.
Leprechaun was a bad. There's only one Barrel Man.
Yeah.
Then there's all the
So here we go. This is the Super Bowl week edition of After the Horn. First, want to again thank our friends at Furniture Row for our fabulous furniture. We appreciate you, and we like the way it makes us feel, and the set looks as well. A very different show than we might have been having had Sean Payton kicked a field goal in the first half
We're
a few
still
days
gonna-
ago.
we're gonna
Because-
hammer him a little
well,
more.
we'd be doing a Broncos Super Bowl show. Then we'd be talking about, can the Broncos hang with the Seattle Seahawks
Well,
in the
we
Super
should
Bowl?
mention, though, that Guerrilla Sports, and I'm involved in it, will be doing shows from San Francisco. Nobody's
isn't
doing
that
shows from
nice?
Santa
I
Clara.
know.
How
and
good
they're
is
calling
that?
it ATH Supersized.
Oh, okay.
We'll be looking forward to
So,
what Tom and I will be watching that.
60th Super Bowl, and this is interesting to me that you're going because Woody and I were talking before about how many Super Bowls you've been to, which is
40-something.
40-something. My dad went to the first Super Bowl. He was working out in Los Angeles. He made commercials. He was shooting a commercial out there and was one of the people infamously on Saturday night before the Super Bowl was out with Max McGee. among which there are many. When CU's Boyd Dowler got hurt and Max had to play,
Star,
and became
Dowler, touchdown.
Ray Scott.
Ray Scott.
So, but that was, you think of Super Bowl I in 1967. They sold about 60,000 of the 100,000 tickets that were available in the LA Coliseum, and 2 networks carried the game.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a different era.
It was.
The AFL was on ABC, if I remember
I
correctly.
think it was NBC.
NBC.
For
and
the AFL.
CBS,
Kurt
CBS
Gowdy
had,
and Paul Chrisman.
Yeah.
God, we're aging ourselves badly here.
My first one was number 9. And I told him, you will remember this for one reason. Well, 2 reasons. You probably would remember. It was a great game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Tremendous
and then
game.
Swan makes a great.
Was that the Jackie Smith game where he
No,
dropped
that
the
was
pass? Or
this
that
was
later?
an earlier version of Steelers Cowboys. This was the Lynn Swan vaulting in the air in
But
the daylight.
what is
Yep.
amazing about that, and you'll know about this, is that I sat there the entire day watching the blimp above us and an actor named Robert Shaw, because they were filming a movie called Black Sunday,
Sunday.
which was about terrorists attacking the Super Bowl, and the NFL actually approved it. And it was about terrorists. And you know what happened after that in the world, in the Olympics, and
So
what has gone on around the world.
Let's talk about Super Bowl 60, but in a variety of ways. There's a lot of football to talk about. Commissioner Goodell had his press conference, and one of the things he was forced to address, or was asked to address, was the Rooney Rule. 10 coaching vacancies come and go without a single minority candidate actually getting any of the jobs, even the coordinator positions. So the Rooney Rule obviously has become something that teams clearly have to deal with only to navigate as opposed to try to have the impact that I think it was meant to have. Is there a way you can legislate?
Well,
what
I told you
owners
guys a couple of weeks ago that I thought that, for whatever word, that the Broncos defensive coordinator was this year's black guy. That every team used him, I'm putting it that way, used him to fulfill the Rooney Rule. And I don't think any of those teams, you know who it was before that. He's now back as the offensive
defensive coordinator, yeah.
Yeah. And the NFL, how do they fix this? They fix it by making it where I think in owners' meetings, it's got to be discussed that we, meaning the NFL, have to hire more minority offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. That is where head coaches generally come from. They don't come from college football.
Right.
They don't come. They may come from being a quarterback coach for the Denver Broncos, but you've got to bear down. I think, no pun intended about the Bears, but I think you got to bear down about that. Yes, when the sport is played by 75% minorities, that the coaches have to sort of fit in with
I don't
that.
see the owners being able to fix it. I mean, the owners are more concerned with who is and who isn't on the Epstein list. It's not exactly not because you're rich and own a football team doesn't make you good at social graces. So
Well, you mean like a former Clippers
yeah,
owner?
well, yeah,
The owners have to be comfortable hiring black men as head coaches. Until they get there, nothing will ever change. They have to be comfortable taking their black head coach to their country club. They have to be comfortable being in partnership with a black head coach. Until they are, nothing will change.
And we're going to get, I'm sure I will, that, here you're talking about DEI. I'm not talking about DEI.
No,
I'm
got
talking
nothing to
about
do with
humanity,
DEI.
and I'm talking about
Fair
What about
enough.
Steve Tisch you brought up? I mean, let's just put it out there. Jerry Richardson was forced to sell his franchise
Panthers,
because of racially insensitive remarks, sexually offensive remarks. It's pretty clear. I read all the Steve Tisch stuff. There's not much gray area there. He was involved intimately with Jeffrey Epstein procuring him women. Now, he came out and said, well, it was adult women. Well, it may be, it may not. What does the NFL do about that?
yeah.
Or is that okay?
you got
I
the-
read that Goodell yesterday
the
said,
vanilla
"Well,
answer."
We're going to
Yeah.
investigate. Well, you don't need to investigate very deeply. It's black and white. It's in the. You can read the same thing all of us read, and draw your own conclusion.
There's so many issues going on around the Super Bowl. I found it funny that I think I mentioned this to Natasha, that there were reports and photos coming out of last night's gatherings, interviews with the players, fans' experiences, that those places were somewhat empty in a lot of cases. And I'm wondering whether there's a feeling about San Francisco. I hadn't even thought about it, of what's going on and what's gone on in San Francisco, homelessness situations. And I wonder whether a lot of people are staying away from it. You would think Boston people would be coming, that Seattle, it's
I'm
pretty
sure they are, yeah.
fun.
I'll give you one theory. Then it's way out there though, but I think this is one of the least exciting Super Bowl matchups that we've had in a long time.
Do you
It is
thi-
going in.
Are
Yeah.
are you believing that major corporations in the country who get half the tickets usually, that they don't want to go? That might be it.
Possibly. I just don't think that the country, in general, is excited yet about this matchup. Now, maybe as the week goes on, it'll change. But I just think if you look back on all the Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady,
Yeah.
we've been spoiled by some really good matchups.
High
And I-
octane matchups.
Yeah.
Not just the games, but the matchup
Yeah,
going
the
in
matchup.
was sexy. Yeah.
I
You
just
were
don't
asking
feel it
me in a
with
car
this.
about Super Bowls. I believe that one of the best Super Bowls I've ever not been to was going to Las Vegas. I'm thinking that people, Las Vegas is suffering, but athletes go to Las Vegas instead of going to especially now the Pro Bowl. And I believe that Las Vegas has taken away a lot of the glamour, if you will, of going to the Super Bowl. And people say, well, let's go to Las Vegas. They have some incredible parties there.
I have a couple of things I need to ask you about. One is, I wanted to handicap the Pro Bowl, but the Hall of Fame, today word comes out that Robert Kraft is not going in. We got Bill Belichick not going in. Are the voters, who we have to get into who the voters are and what their motivations are the voters punishing? Because clearly these are two people who would walk into the Hall of Fame just on their resume alone. Are they punishing them for Spygate, for all the Patriots malfeasances that they were accused of?
I was a Hall of Fame member for 15 years.
As a voter?
Yes. In that committee meeting, it was usually... See, one of the mistakes they made, we used to meet the weekend of the Super Bowl. So there was no getting out reports because nobody knew until that period of time.
Saturday night before the game.
Yeah, we would spend about 8, 10, 12 hours at it, and they sometimes had to push back the announcement because of that. But I can tell you, being in that room, and I kept saying to the organization, the board that ran it, because you guys have known me forever, I'd say, these votes should be transparent. I don't like what I'm seeing with the anonymous votes. We would, on a pad, we'd write. And when you got down to the finalists, which they're talking about doing, you'd say yes or no. And I couldn't figure out, if you got this far, why would you say no? I mean, it went through a serious process, starting with about 200 players. And we would work on it for months leading up to the Super Bowl.
With the Patriots in this Super Bowl and with what just happened, Ron, this seems like this will be the watershed moment. You'd hope for the Hall of Fame to come to Jesus moment where people are going, are you kidding?
You would think.
Well, but that is also causes a problem. And I'll just give you 2 or 3 examples and quickly. Got up, and his son is a famous broadcaster. And he was a committee member, and he said, I'll never vote for a kicker or a punter. He said that in the meeting. And I went, well, that's a strange thing to say, because I thought the Oakland Raiders had the greatest punter of all time, Ray Guy.
Right.
And he didn't get a sniff because they didn't want. There were people that didn't want punters or kickers. There were people who didn't want Lawrence Taylor in there because of issues that involve drugs and other off-field issues. In the contract, it says you can't consider. I used to tell people this: you can't consider off-the-field actions. It's between the white lines. Well, guys paid no attention to that. But according to the contract, O.J. Simpson, who's in the Hall of Fame, if he'd come along after the killings, you couldn't have considered him according to the rules of the Hall of Fame. So I found it funny that there are guys, it's still in there, that unlike baseball where you consider Barry Bonds or Pete Rose or whatever it might be, Shoeless Joe Jackson, you can't put them in, that you can keep them out because of their actions elsewhere. But I couldn't understand why guys would just violate that. Why could they do it? Because it's anonymous.
Right.
And it should have been transparent that if you didn't want to vote for Lawrence Taylor, if you don't want to vote for Robert Kraft, if you don't want to vote for Bill Belichick, in baseball, as in the Heisman Trophy, all the others that I vote on, it's transparent. I can say it before or after, whatever I want to. It's in Canton, Ohio. And I say that it's kind of run like they have a parade down Main Street and, with floats from high schools. And it's an atmosphere, because that's where football supposedly started. It's an atmosphere that's kind of a small town. And I think that board and those that run it treat it that way, and they make mistakes. And their mistake, which I used to say, and I think it got me kicked off. They said I went to New York, and I said, does that change things about me knowing Broncos players? But I think they kicked me off because I was too outspoken, truthfully. But it should be transparent. That's the first thing you do. You make sure, and I used to say to them, and they've done it since I left, you bring in former Hall of Famers to vote. You bring in club presidents to vote. it shouldn't be a bunch of sports writers. And there were no women on I would say that every year. You got to put women on this committee. Now they are taking care of that, but they got to be transparent. I'll leave it at that. But there's no doubt in my mind that Kraft will get in and Belichick, but I thought that Mike Shanahan should have been in years ago. And his coaching tree may be the best in the history of the National Football League. And he won 2 Super Bowls as a head coach and a third as an offensive coordinator with the 49ers. Will Brady? No. John Elway got in on the first. Marino got in. Peyton got in on the first. Whatever happened with deflating the balls will be dismissed and he'll get in. And actually, that happened off the field, didn't it? So it shouldn't count.
Ron?
Sorry.
Very simple. Baseball usually gets everything wrong,
Yeah.
almost all the time.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Hall of Fame, they're way ahead of the NFL. First off, their Hall of Fame is more important.
Yeah.
They think it's more important, and the general public thinks it's more important. This is pretty simple. He's right about the transparency. But here's the problem. 50 people voting? Are you kidding?
Small sample.
That's way too small. You want to keep some sports writers like Woody? Keep them. Do what baseball does. Have 400 people
Right.
vote so that no one person
How about fans?
Or I don't care.
Add them
the
into the
more
mix.
the merrier. But if you have 50 people, it's ridiculous because every vote is incredibly important. And yet, the other thing, baseball, baseball understands about the Hall of Fame.
Baseball's always had the numbers, though. Football's a harder
And we all know
number
baseball
sport.
writers. They look down on all of us. They're seam heads. We're not. I felt that for years with the Rockies. But at least baseball opens it up to a lot of ex-players.
Yeah.
And that their veterans committee is a group of Hall of Fame players. That's what. If you're going to have if you're going to vote on the veterans in the NFL, have Hall of Fame players do
The
it.
Pro Football Hall of Fame also gets in its own way with all these specific categories and numbers and things. Because you look at, every year you look at those finalists, you go, yeah, those are all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
All of them would be Hall of Famers. But let's get down to 5. And I'm like, why? Why do we have to?
That's what I used to say. Well, I'll tell you what, we had again, be short, 7 possibilities when I was on the committee. And sometimes we put in 4. And I would get up and say in the meeting, we got 7 openings. There are 150 guys out there that should be considered. And you're not voting for 3 of the 7?
But the
You know
voting-
why? They hated the player. He was ugly to them, or they thought he was an ass, or they thought he didn't win enough Super Bowls.
Right. But baseball's the one I always stop because I always go, until Mariano Rivera, nobody'd ever gotten in with a clean sheet. And I'm going, really? So when Willie Mays was up, there were a couple guys going,
I don't know.
They got to take a look at some of his, his OPA.
Well, you're talking about human beings.
No, but you can't vote for baseball's Hall of Fame if Willie Mays isn't a rubber stamp. There's so many guys who should be rubber stamped
Hank
in.
Aaron.
But can you have
Exactly.
someone on the committee? I felt like we almost had to go through a process of doing an audition to get on the Hall of Fame committee. And I've told you guys, publicly and privately, I sat next to a guy and I could see his sheet. He said to me, he would not vote for a black player. You can
There's
guess
your
what
answer
part of
as
the
to why
country.
Willie was not a unanimous.
That could be a problem in
Yeah.
and of itself. Let's go to the Broncos now.
Let's do.
Suddenly they have their offseason
Well, who do you
upon
think's
them.
going to win the Super Bowl?
Who do I think's going to win?
Yeah.
I like Seattle. I like Seattle solidly. I really think a lot of Mike Vrabel. And it's part of why I look at what the Broncos are and aren't doing with play calling, because I think Mike Vrabel coaches the team, has to say so in everything that happens from start to finish. But he has an offensive coordinator and he has a defensive coordinator, and they call the shots. It all goes through Vrabel. But I think Vrabel's going to do a really good job and surprise people and keep the game close enough. It'll be a matter of how well Drake May plays and how well Sam Darnold plays. I think both quarterbacks are a bit of a mystery.
Two quarterbacks that are both injured, if you believe what's being written.
When did they invent the oblique? Because I remember nobody had ever had an oblique injury until
I
about
don't
10
know
or
where the
15
oblique
years ago.
is.
I think it was some guy that swung really hard and missed and went, ow!
My side hurts.
Yeah.
No, we gotta call it an oblique injury.
Patrick Surtain II has predicted the Seattle Seahawks to win by basically the same score they beat the Broncos in Super Bowl 48.
By 30.
He said 35-6 or something like that.
It won't be that bad, but I agree with everything Tom said. I think Seattle will win.
Well, and that,
But I
that
agree.
coach who could walk in here and none
No
of
one
us
would
would
know him.
recognize him. Mike McDonald,
They confused him with the ex-Miami.
You know where
Dolphins
Mike
coach.
McDonald grew up?
what?
Situate, Massachusetts, rooting for the Patriots and the Red Sox.
Well, of course, there's also Michael McDonald, who sings.
Well, who is a 75-year-old guy with white hair? I don't want to say anything.
Who sings
What a
one-
fool believes.
Sings very
Sings-
well.
sings
Does a
on
lot
everybody.
of duets.
Yeah.
sings on a song one sentence every 2 minutes.
He just runs into the booth.
Crisscross.
Does a great bit. He does that.
He's had a great career.
So are we
Such
all?
a long way to go.
Do you? You're with us on Seattle. You like Seattle?
Yes, I got emails this week saying we agree too much, and I thought we agree because we're right. And if Ron says something that's right, I'm not going to sit here and
Yeah,
just say
same
you're an
thing.
idiot.
I love to disagree with you, but if you're right, you're right. I'm not going to fake it.
I think it's going to be close. I'm with you. I believe it's going to be really close because I think that the quarterback for the Patriots is not fully healed. You were talking about they're both kind of injured. I think that the Patriots and Seahawks are a better team. I think
better
they
roster.
win, but I don't think it's going to be a
So
blowout.
Drake May has not had a great postseason, but he's also
Yes.
played 3 games where it's been 14 degrees out. So it's going to be nicer than that in San Francisco, and I think that will lend itself to him.
And you made a great
performing
point
little bit
last
better.
week. Seattle's different on the road than they are at
There's
home.
Seattle at home, and then there's Seattle not at home. And Seattle at home is a monster. Seattle on the road's a good team.
Let's get to Sean Payton. It's more fun.
So here's what I want to ask you about, because Sean Payton, it does work out that they lose one of their defensive coaches. Jim Leonard is off to Buffalo. Vance Joseph is staying. The new offensive coordinator replacing Joe Lombardi, and we have to thank Joe for all he did, is going to be Davis Webb, who moves up from quarterback coach. And a lot of people say, why would he do it without the guarantee of being able to call plays and grow? And I just, one thing does come to mind for me, that the average salary of a quarterback and assistant coach is somewhere around $200,000, and the minimum that an offensive coordinator makes is $1 million. So that's a pretty good price hike. So whether or not you're calling plays, and we don't know that he actually had other opportunities, but Davis Webb is the offensive coordinator. How much coordinating will he get to do?
Well, a guy with 2 last names.
Never trust
There
a
you
guy.
go.
Never trust a guy with 2
That's-
first names or 2 last names.
What I thought
You
about
won't vote for a
was
putter.
if indeed he's going to be the play caller, where is he going to be? Nobody's addressed that issue. He was always sitting next to Bo
Quarterback.
Nix on working with him during the course of the game. Is he going to move up to the press box, or do they want him to still be there?
How about
They've
halfway?
named a-
Like sit in the stands,
they
about halfway.
they named a quarterback coach, and people go, I didn't know he was with the Broncos. They hired him away from a high school in New Orleans where he was the quarterback coach for the quarterback that is at the University of Texas. That's his background.
Now, is that because Logan Kilgore, they just moved him up. He was a quality control coach
That's
who
what I'm
was
talking about.
coach. Yeah, he's the one who is now the quarterback's
And
coach.
he coached Manning
Arch Manning.
at high school.
At that school, the Eli and Peyton High School, Isidore Newman.
And so he's gone in a pretty quick time, 3 years. He's gone from being a high school coach to now being the quarterback coach. Is he the one that's going to be sitting next to Bo Nix? Is Davis Webb going to be still on the field? If he's calling plays, is it going to be in the press box? Most of the offensive coordinators, we
Upstairs.
see them are upstairs. Is he moving when he's been what we think is so effective working with Nix during the course of games? So there's a lot of moving parts still to this, and I think when it's all over with. Sean Payton calls plays with suggestions from his offensive coordinator.
I agree with that. And let me just say, Davis Webb played for the New York Giants in his very short career. I am convinced that the New York Giants would have hired Davis Webb to be their offensive coordinator, and for sure he would have called plays.
John Harbaugh doesn't call plays.
He doesn't call plays, and that's a great job. They just hired Matt Nagy, who's got a lot of experience as a play caller. I think that if Davis Webb took this job, I would think that he would have taken it with some kind of assurance that he would be more involved than he was previously.
But it's not technical. It's emotional, I think, with Sean Payton. Can you see Sean Payton not calling plays? Every picture you see of him, he's got the menu up on his face, and he's calling out a play.
So then what is Davis Webb doing? Is he just taking a pay raise?
What is Sean Payton doing if Davis Webb is calling plays?
Well, they you know what? They didn't want to lose Davis Webb.
Yeah.
So they found a way to give him an upgrade. But really, I ask you, if he's not calling plays, is it an upgrade?
Well, financially.
If
nothing else, he
yeah,
makes
but it's easy. He wants to be a head coach,
and
right?
so he gets the OC title. That's his launching pad.
That's his launching pad. But it's easier. Eric Bieniemy will tell you this. It's easier to be the offensive coordinator and the play caller to get to the next level. If you're just the offensive coordinator in name only,
and Andy Reid's calling all the plays. Yeah,
he'll tell you it doesn't work that way.
I would say this, though. I think people have kind of forgotten that Webb did call the plays in a preseason game and did an extreme.
Well.
They scored 30 points in the game.
Now you are facing the basic defense of a bunch of guys
who are now out in the real world.
I wanted to add that he has done it for one game. It was a meaningless game before the season started. But you said request or added that. When you've negotiated contracts with a number of different medias, you demanded things. You didn't ask for. You said, if I want this,
I never got it, but I did demand them. You're right.
Like me once putting in a demand for green M&Ms because that's what rock groups did.
So here's the question. I think you have to look at the Bronco organization from the very top down. And Sean Payton may have said, I want Davis Webb on our staff. I want continuity on our offense. I like what Davis does, all that stuff. But I wonder if it's more of a Greg Penner thing, watching the operation from 30,000 feet. And he asks questions, as he says. He doesn't make football decisions, but he asks questions. He educates himself. If he's looking at that workflow, like most Bronco fans watching the play clock tick relentlessly on Sean Payton. Sean Payton even alluding to it this year, that as you get older, things slow down a little bit for you. I wonder if Greg Penner had a nudge in this decision and a nudge in which direction this will go as far as play calling. Because, does the play calling change dramatically? I don't know. Will it get faster? Will it become more efficient than it's been? Because it does seem like the Broncos have played up against the play clock now throughout Sean Payton's tenure.
Do you find it funny at all, though? Another aspect of this is Lombardi and Carmichael, who are former offensive coordinators around the league and worked
Payton
for him
guys
in the past. And Carmichael's with the Buffalo Bills. He was a forgotten man with the Broncos publicly. Nobody ever talked about him.
Right.
Lombardi was the offensive coordinator. And Lombardi comes out and says, well, Sean is in one of his moods.
Yeah, that's why you fired me.
That's why I got axed.
And he said, I know about working with him. So that's why I said there's moving parts here that we will never know. But I think we'll find out once the season starts of where Davis Webb is located. If he's behind Sean Payton, he's not calling plays. If he's in the press box, he's probably involved in the plays. As you talked about with Bieniemy, he was always next to Andy Reid.
He's in the picture.
And so I think this will unfurl itself more vividly as we get closer to the season.
Ron, do you think ownership's involved?
No.
At all?
No. I don't think Greg Penner, who is a novice at football, is telling Sean Payton, I don't like the way the play calls came in late. I think Sean Payton is telling Greg Penner. Now, I agree with you. Greg Penner is
Asking questions. Yeah.
and he's learning. Just like in 1983, Pat Bowlen came in here with more football credentials than Greg Penner, but he still asked questions and learned. But I think Sean Payton's got bigger problems than Davis Webb. He's got a quarterback who's pissed off right now, and I find it funny because for a lot of us, it harkens back to another time in Denver when a quarterback was pissed off at a head
Chafing
coach.
at the head coach.
It was for different reasons,
This
I
is
think.
Elway and Reeves.
It was about the style of play. Now, I don't know if maybe Bo Nix, maybe the style of play has a little bit to do with it, but I do know this. When a coach who's got a huge ego says too much and then tries to make jokes that the person who he's joking about doesn't find funny, and that person can't run to the microphones fast enough to say that the coach has no idea what he's talking about, you've got the germ of a problem.
More than a germ, maybe.
Maybe more. And, you know, my kid who bleeds orange and watches everything and calls me all the time, called me the other day and said, I got a prediction and I don't like it. And I go, what's that? He goes, there's always a balance of power in an organization. Started out Sean Payton here and Bo Nix here when he drafted him. Now we're a couple years into Bo Nix. Instead of being like this, it's like this.
Yeah.
And he goes, in another year or two, Bo Nix will be ahead of Sean Payton. And when the Broncos have a natural regression, which they will, don't be surprised if it comes down to Bo Nix and Sean Payton goes.
And that has a lot to do with Davis Webb, I think, too.
You got it. Davis Webb has been the liaison between.
The Mike Shanahan.
Exactly. Mike Shanahan was between Reeves and Elway. He took the side of Elway. That's why you wonder whether Webb says, I'm the guy that works with Bo Nix, not this guy that was a high school coach 3 years ago.
Right.
So I believe that's why I'm saying there's a lot of folders here that we're going to have to check into, and sources are not that good at the Broncos. I'm saying that you can't get into Penner's head like you could.
Right. With Pat.
Sean
Pat
Payton's
Bowlen.
won one playoff game in 3 years.
Yeah, no, but it is his franchise. I mean, he still has the helm
For now. Yeah.
Wouldn't
And-
it be strange, though, if the general manager leaves for the Minnesota Vikings?
Minnesota Vikings.
Well, because the general manager's next task, I think Bo Nix would like to have his ankle healthy, but his next task is the Broncos need playmakers.
Yeah.
They need game-breaking playmakers. They need to somehow. Every other team seems to be able to find their tight end on occasion.
Gosh.
The Broncos,
Even bad tight ends.
I know there's tight ends running around all over the league.
There
except
were
in-
tight ends.
They don't play at altitude, I guess.
before
Tight
Payton.
ends must be a sea
Tight
level
ends don't
thing.
do well.
They haven't been a factor with the Broncos through the last four coaches.
Well, they
including
kept
the current
drafting
one.
guys too. They kept wasting
Yes,
Noah
out of the
Fant
Big
and
Ten
Jake
every
Butt,
year.
and they'd bring an Iowa tight end, and they'd brought in the 6'7"
They
kid
just
from
brought
Utah.
they brought the wrong Iowa tight end. There's a million great Iowa tight ends. They picked the wrong
picked
one.
Noah
I'll
Fant.
say this: there was a list of players that are now free agents totally, and I went through and about six of them I'd never heard of. They were on the practice squad. The other four I went, they should get on the next bus out of town anyway. So it's going to be exactly what you said. They have got to go out and get a tight end. Gosh, we say this every year. And they've got to get another wide receiver who's, if he's not one, he's at least
1A.
1A.
Yep.
And they don't have those two. And I was going to write about that going into the Patriots game. Think about what the tight ends did and the wide receivers did. It was a snow game, but it didn't snow the entire game.
Right. But even then, you also have running back as a question, whereas J.K. Dobbins, if they're going to keep J.K. Dobbins, which sounds great. He was terrific when he was healthy, but he's never stayed healthy. So you need a real plan B I mean, a
Why
player.
didn't he have a press conference and say, "I'm not always injured"?
I did see, to Woody's point, I did see a quote from Evan Ingram when they asked him about his year. He goes, "Hey, dependent position. I didn't get the ball enough, And I think, no one other than Josh Allen ever steps up and says, it's on me.
Yeah,
It's always somebody else's
I didn't bring much
fault.
to the table.
Yeah.
Well, they were dropping the football. Let me tell you, based on my history,
Thumbs together.
I was
Yeah.
a tight end in the 8th grade. That was the only time I was tight
There were a
end.
lot of tight ends when you were
are
in
to
8th
put
grade.
your thumbs together and catch the ball out here. You don't catch it in here
Yeah.
with your hands spread because it's going to hit and
Bounce.
off. So,
Tight
I
end tips only here on
Only
After the
here.
Horn.
Only here.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Broncos do try to upgrade their roster and how they maintain. And that's, this is the salary cap year. As I was talking about DMAC on my show about how they had Bo Nix cheap for 2 years, but it wasn't really. They were still paying so much money to Russell Wilson.
That's a great point.
That it was like having a veteran, high-paid quarterback.
Now they've got money.
This is this window right here, this year, money to spend wisely and upgrade
plus
the offense.
the numbers are going to go up seriously
Cap,
again
yeah,
for the cap
yeah.
number because the league is so successful. So, turning away from that, if we can, I watched a basketball game the other night and I went, I don't care how many people are injured. That's a better team than this team.
We're going to talk about the Nuggets, but
Let's
first
do
I'm
that.
going to remind everybody about our friends at American Financing. These times can be especially tough right now. The math not adding up for many people lately. The grocery store, skyrocketing insurance premiums. So even with a steady job, more families are being forced to rely on high-interest credit cards to cover expenses. So if you're a homeowner that is caught in that cycle, carrying balances with interest rates in the 20s or even 30s, it's time to get some relief. Right now, mortgage rates have dropped to a 3-year low. My friends at American Financing are helping homeowners pay off that high interest debt, at rates in the low 5s. Now, their salary-based mortgage consultants don't just push loans. They build exit strategies from debt. On average, they're saving customers $800 a month. And if you start today, you might even be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. And there are no upfront fees or obligations. If you want to find out how much you can save, Colorado's home for home loans is American Financing. Call 855-581-5828, 855-581-5828, or visit americanfinancing.net/green.
Well done, Tom.
Thank you.
Let's pick up on what Woody talked
Let's
about.
talk about the Nuggets.
Just a moment. And nobody's ever asked you to do menial tasks.
Oh, yeah, I
But
have.
I've gotten all these people saying, "Why don't you have anything on the coffee table?" Would you reach behind you? It's
What's
right
back
here. Can you do this? Sure. See that little pot? Would you put that on the coffee table?
Am I getting
And if
Well, you get a
people
little
want
feng
to,
shui.
if people want to
Perfect.
reach out to us, or Natasha, you should be in charge of this.
We can take suggestions. What do you
Yes,
want to see
for-
on the
for what-
table?
And I would like to go before we. I was the one who hastily moved on to the Nuggets. What did you think about all of these decisions being made by the Broncos? Since you are representing the millions of Broncos fans. out
Broncos
there.
country. You're the fan.
Yeah,
Oh
you're
my
the fan.
gosh.
I mean,
Uh-oh, a lot
Well,
of pressure on
how
that.
about the Sean Payton Bo Nix controversy? What about the offensive coordinator? What about the defensive coordinator not getting a job as a head coach? What is on your gripe list?
Well,
What's grinding your gears?
No, I agree with everything that you guys said. And I know to agree too much, but we did spend a lot of time on the Broncos. And I will say that my number one job ahead of being the Broncos fan correspondent is to keep us on track. And we're on a time crunch because you're going to the Super Bowl.
So we have to
I would say
hurry.
you can go on to Nuggets.
So, but the plane doesn't leave till Woody gets on it. It's like a private jet,
Yeah,
right?
it's like a
Gorilla
team
Sports
plane.
That's
PJ.
true, waiting on the tarmac
just pay
for
a-
him.
Pay the fine and be late.
Just fuel it
Peyton
up.
Manning once said to me, I said, "Are you going to the Tennessee game?" And he said, "Yeah, aren't you bringing your plane? We'll go on your plane." And I said, "I don't have a plane." I said, "You're Peyton fucking Manning." We can say it on this
You have
show
a plane.
for years. He said, "I'm not taking my plane."
Yeah.
So,
So last week was a very interesting week for the local winter sports teams in that the Nuggets got Jokic back and played a really cool game against the Clippers. And then the Avs went into Detroit and steamrolled the Red Wings. Everything was going great. And then Sunday came around and Oklahoma City came to town and reminded the Nuggets of who they were. And then the Avs, their second to last game before the Olympic break, got shut out by the Red Wings at Ball Arena 2-0. It was really good till it went really bad. So let's talk about it. Let's start with the Nuggets.
I said I watched the game the other night, and once again, I mean, they got to get everybody healthy. I think they've only had 14 games where they've had 4 of their 5 starters.
Right.
It's almost been none. But they've got to figure out the SGA problem.
Nobody can, though. They're not alone.
And I'm sitting there going, gosh, I always say that Joker is the most valuable player, the best player in the world.
Not if you watched that game
yes,
the other night.
And plus they had 14 guys that were making three-pointers, and we've never seen that.
Kason Wallace, they turned him into Kobe Bryant.
Kason Wallace on his way to Springfield.
You know what? Jokic Friday night against the Clippers, I watched both games in their entirety. He was phenomenal, having sat out all that time. Just incredible. We get to Sunday night, and this in no way is meant to be a criticism of Jokic. You can't take one shot in the first quarter, and you can't take 9 shots for the game. He's got a stiff Isaiah Hartenstein checking him, and one of his great strengths is he's so unselfish. There are certain times you got to be a little more selfish. One shot in the first quarter when Oklahoma City is allowed to get control of the game and get the tone of the game in there, you can't do that. The other thing, if you were a person watching that, which was on national television, and you've heard all about Jokic is the MVP, and you'd watch that game and go, SGA is by far the MVP. He was so far and away the best player on that floor, it wasn't even close. So they're the champions. The Nuggets are the challengers. Nuggets have to throw the knockout punch, and from what I saw Sunday, you better get Gordon back because they're not capable of knocking out OKC based on where they sit right now.
So that's the deal now. If you draw the roadmap for the Nuggets into the playoffs, they're going to have to face Oklahoma City likely. Or do they need somebody? San Antonio seems to be able to handle Oklahoma City.
They
do you
do.
need somebody to take care of business
Well,
for you?
the problem might be, based on how things are going, before the Nuggets can get to Oklahoma City, they might have to play San Antonio.
Right.
And that may be a very difficult series for the Nuggets.
And if I'm the Nuggets, I try to squeeze it where I don't have to play San
Well, that's the
Antonio.
number.
Stay
San
away.
Antonio.
Try to manipulate it.
Absolutely. That's what I do, because you might be able to stay with OKC, but you may not be able to stay with San Antonio.
Exactly.
Getting Joker back, and I think this will be a bit of a process for him getting back in, because a lot of times you'll see a guy come back, play a good game, and then there's a lag after an injury, and so maybe that had something to do with Sunday. Who knows?
And you talked
But-
about the
I thought
Avalanche.
of you watching the game, though, because you made a great point the other day, which I hadn't considered. And you said, enjoy Peyton Watson because they're not going to pay him. Peyton Watson was their best player, and by far.
He's been the best player for the last month and a half.
Yeah, and they're not going to pay him. He's
They'll wanna.
they'll want to, but he's taken himself into a.
Well, you better do something before the trade deadline. That's what I'm saying.
We got a couple days left.
You got only a couple days left.
You got to bring him back. If you remember, the Joker put him in a commercial with him
Yes,
when he was
yeah.
a
They
kid.
were good.
Yeah, he's worked with Durant. He idolized Durant. Durant took him under his wing and has worked with him for years.
So is
he
Jokic
is
now.
a present-day clone, if you will, of Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant.
He's now shooting three-pointers in like 42, 43%.
He's active.
taking it to the basket. And he said, I love this quote. He said, I want to be one of the two best two-way players, one of the top 2 or 3 two-way players. He's blocking shots. He is taking on the best player on the other team.
There would be
defensively.
tumult for the Nuggets if they were able to make a deal at the trade deadline that would allow them to keep Peyton Watson, though. You're talking about a big a big
He's
movement.
talking about a big move.
Like
I
a Cam
was-
Johnson type of. I mean, he'd
Oh,
be
sure.
the one guy who has the salary that you could maybe
Yeah,
equate.
but they can't trade him. People aren't going to. They don't want people that are injured, and who knows when he's coming back. Woody's probably right. They're probably going to make a trade, but it's going to be a more
a Zeke or a,
yeah, something
Well, that's
smaller.
right.
Unless you want to, there's 3 guys out there that are available that are massive. They're all hurt, but they're massive. Giannis, Jean Morant, and Anthony Davis. Now they're all going to come back at some point in the next few weeks.
Well,
I don't think the Nuggets.
I don't want any.
I don't want
the
any
three.
of those either. But those are the names that might.
I'm solutions oriented. I always was on ESPN. I've always been with you guys. I'm solutions oriented. You take the money you just got from Portland for your Colorado Rapids, and you move it, if you're the Crockies, from the Rapids over to the Nuggets.
That's a
And
little.
you-
That's a little incestuous there, but
it's always
They
it's always tricky when you
they're
spend
getting
other
$3
people's
million.
money.
They're
Yeah.
getting $3 million for
You
their
know?
only homegrown player. I'm talking about the Colorado Rapids, and now the Nuggets are kind of playing with the second level and the second tier and things like that. You got to go over that. You have got to go over that, Stan. You
The
have got to
apron?
keep Peyton.
yeah.
here.
When you tell owners about going over aprons, they get a little,
That seems to be a freaky one. The other thing Sunday that happened was Jamal Murray finally made an All-Star team, and did not shoot the ball
and
well
went
on
out
Sunday.
Went 4 for 16.
Yeah, but he's been obviously
He deserves
a
it.
huge
He's been
part
tremendous.
of their first
Was
half
very
success.
happy for him.
And he's also been the one guy who shows up every night.
Every night.
Other
Yeah.
guys, are in suits watching basketball.
So on the other extreme, Hardaway sometimes shows up at the gym.
Well, he didn't show up
He's
Sunday
been
night.
terrific.
He has
you
been
know what?
good.
I would say those two guys, if they have a tough day shooting, I can shrug
You
that
know
off
what's
because they've been
interesting?
tremendous.
They're playing in Detroit tonight.
Yeah.
Against the best team in the East. Let's see how they bounce back from a beating like that on national
Well,
television.
how have we
Let's
done?
see how much character
how
they
have
have.
we, meaning Denver, how have we done in the last 24 hours against teams from Detroit?
Yeah.
Not that well. But if you asked me on Saturday, I would have said,
We're killing them.
We're killing them.
I watched that last night and I went, you can't score one goal.
You know
can't.
what's bad about that? We all get up for the Wings. I watched both games, and
yeah.
I don't watch every Avalanche game, but I'm still in the mode of the rivalry. There's a whole new generation of people.
But
who go, what rivalry?
I'm an old guy, so anytime it's original six, it just looks better.
Well-
I love that stuff.
But it's the Red Wings. We covered 1 million of those games, and it was fun to see the Avalanche kick their ass on Saturday. And then they kind of
They've been
gave us a no-show the other night.
They're playing average
Last
to below average.
Yes, they are. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Now, they missed Landeskog. I'm hearing Landy's going to play for Sweden in the Olympic Games, so he's
Yes.
getting healthy. I don't know if he's going to play.
You know what? That would bother me, though, if I was the Avalanche
Well, let's see,
management.
because they have the one game left with San
And
Jose.
if I'm him and I'm the captain of this team and I helped you win the Stanley Cup,
he'd say,
I wouldn't give a shit what.
And he
you
you're
thought,
probably
I want to
assessing
play
him.
for Sweden.
Yeah.
I want Sweden to win. Yeah.
Well, then if I'm the Avs management, I say, hey, how much is Sweden paying you?
Yeah.
I know what we're paying you.
Well, but he's a different cat altogether, too. He is, and has always been since he was a teenager, the captain. And you can tell he wears that C well, better than almost anyone in any sport. And for him, it matters a lot. And if you were going to say, if you're Jared Bednar or Joe Sakic, and you want to say, hey, don't play, they'd never say that to him. They would never say
It's
that
hard
to
to
him.
say not to play.
did-
It's the Olympics.
Do we remember the Avalanche saying to Forsberg he could?
Yeah.
Except he wasn't in the league yet.
No, but
when
it's
he
just
won.
they're guys who are going to play. So there are 8 Avs who will be playing in the Olympic Games on the unique ice arena they've built over there. But this break can't come soon enough. They've been playing not their worst hockey, but it's just
Not
been the
good.
most indifferent hockey of the year.
I would like to, in my aspect of both the teams, that one of them has 36 victories, which is number one in the National Hockey League. I know they go by points,
Right.
not victories, but I still consider
They're still on
victories
top of
almost
all
all.
those piles.
And the Nuggets are now 4th overall. I think San Antonio was past them with the victory they had. So you have two teams that are in the running to be possible number one seeds. I don't think it's going to happen with the Nuggets. I think the Avalanche will come around when they get their injury problem, major injury problem. They had a sickness last night of one of their best players. But it's good that they're following the trend of the Denver Broncos, not the trend we've seen from the baseball team here over a period of, 35 years or whatever. But Denver's still a sports city, and it's amazing to me, started covering the Nuggets in a place that seated 6,000, and the original hockey team was playing in a place, the Denver Coliseum,
right?
The minor league teams, that they're drawing 20,000, 19,000
every night,
and it's longest streaks in the NFL. The streaks are long in both basketball and hockey. That I applaud the people of Denver, though, that they're really supporting those teams, and they even support the Rockies. They still support
I just happened to be looking at Super Bowl I, some of the ticket stubs. $10 was the average. Yeah, $12 if you wanted to really live it up. And then I was looking at the 1993, the first year of the Rockies. I have a flyer I was taking pictures of. I think the top ticket price, if you wanted to be right on the rail, $16 to go to a.
Do you remember the first year of the Rockies? I don't know if you remember this.
Oh,
You and I were together down there.
Yeah, we were working.
And the first Rocky who ever came out of the dugout in the first spring training was Bryn Smith. And there was nobody to throw with. And Tom said, "Give me a glove, I'll throw with you." He
asked me.
He asked you. And there it is.
That. I remember that, yeah.
Bryn Smith is warming up, throwing to Tom. And I thought, how perfect. And I'm standing there watching it going, this is great. We always dreamed of Major League Baseball, and this is what it is.
Yeah, I bought 2 season tickets the first year.
Yeah.
7 rows behind home plate. And now I got some tickets from a guy who gave me like a dozen this past season. I left them in my car. I left the 12, and someone broke into my car and left 12 more.
Well, pitchers and catchers.
That's any day now. Gosh. And they just let a guy get, I'm going to San Francisco, the Giants just scored a first baseman that actually was supposed to be on the Rockies' radar. Right. If they were going to sign somebody that was, at least a well-known.
They got T.J. Rumfield in that deal from the Yankees. You mentioned you had Suarez.
Have you ever heard
he signed for next
Suarez
to nothing.
Suarez signed a 1-year deal for $15 million with the Cincinnati Reds, but I guess he was too expensive for Colorado.
Or the Red Sox.
Or the Red Sox.
The
Red Sox are concentrating on defense, so their narrative that they throw
were
out there is
concentrating on a starting rotation, yes. But now they've moved.
But Suarez, you could have signed Suarez to pay for half of what you're paying Chris Bryant not to play third base.
How many home runs would Suarez hit in Coors Field?
Gosh,
he'd hit 55. He had 50 or 48 last year.
49 last year in Arizona and Seattle. What would he hit in Coors Field?
It wasn't like he was going to the Dodgers or the Yankees.
Yes, he went to the Reds. I mean, come on.
So here's the deal. April, the Rockies will start, but April is when we really start to hone in on where our hockey and basketball teams are. And I think that's the trick for a professional team, both hockey and basketball, is staying dialed in, because these are those days. Like the Nuggets are trying to get to the All-Star break. I think the Avs need the Olympic break. It's, a third of their team's going to go play in the Olympics.
I think Woody made a good point about how both teams could get top seeds. I think in the NBA, that's everything when you get a top seed.
Yeah.
I think in the National Hockey League, a top seed gets you nothing.
This year's
basically and the Avs could be playing the Dallas Stars in the second round. That's ridiculous.
But what are the Nuggets at home? Are they 13-10 at home?
Not been good at home.
So I don't know.
But then again, I'm not making an excuse.
But what are the Nuggets What are they on the road?
They have the best record in the league on the road.
In the NBA.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing in basketball. You expect that kind of in the National Hockey League that home ice doesn't mean that much, particularly in the playoffs. But wouldn't it be something? What I was trying to get to and take too much time because I'm old, but number one seed in football, number one seed in basketball, number one seed in hockey, that would be an incredible accomplishment.
It would
I don't
be.
know if
Unfortunately,
anybody's ever-
hockey's
would
got that President's Trophy
Yeah.
thing. You get
Where
the
if you
President's
get it-
Trophy and they hand it to you as you leave the ice after
Yes.
losing Game 6 somewhere.
And
Yes.
the player who gets it from them drops it in the hallway
Yes.
and it breaks and they keep
That's the
going.
thing about hockey, though. We've all loved it forever. You can analyze it all you want fairly, and then it comes down to which goaltender
Yeah.
is better.
And if you think a football bounce is funny,
Well,
the
dude,
puck,
Yeah,
puck hop's
exactly.
pretty
And we
funny.
just saw that in a game for a number one seed a couple of weeks ago that quarterbacks make the difference, and
Yeah.
we found one that didn't make the difference at all in the backup quarterback. Man, that where we
Well,
are.
you look at a game like last night with the Avalanche, though, because their goaltending was terrific.
Well, there was,
They
but
played great.
which Wood
Yeah.
should be the starter in the playoffs, or should both Woods share that role going into the games when they really count?
That'll be a decision sorted out with the play of the goalies and the team in March and April.
And I'd like to turn over my nickname of Woodman to both of those guys.
Mackenzie and
I
Scott.
love it how we've got two Woods in goal.
Hey, real
That's
quick
great.
for our listeners, if you're not watching, we have the chalkboard behind Woody. Always like to remind people. And if Woody, if you could lean to your right a little bit. Goodwill Hunting is me shopping for clothes. There you go.
Do you ever go to Goodwill?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I actually I had I have a great quick story to tell. I went to Scotland, play golf with some buddies, and they said, we want to go and we want to at Prestwick. They have this lunch, but you got to wear a jacket. And I'm going, man, I'm packing for 5 days. I don't want to bring a jacket. And they said, no, we're going. So I go to Goodwill and I bought a really nice jacket for $4.
Probably still have it.
I know I left it in Scotland. I didn't need it after that. I just wore it to this.
Well, would you
To play golf in Scotland, a
Well, no,
man of the people,
well,
you know.
You know, that is, he pays for a trip to Scotland to play golf, but spends $4
because
on a
I don't want
sport
to bring
coat.
one of my jackets.
You know?
I like my jackets. This
How
one
was that
would you
trip?
would you
Okay.
take
I
your-
bet it was.
fantastic.
would you
Yeah.
take one of your best friends to Goodwill and get me a new trench coat?
Find you something.
I owe him. You know what? That's a good point. My wife lives at Goodwill. I'm going to go home today and say, hon, next time you go, I owe Woody a trench coat. Would you find a good $5
With interest.
trench coat, and I'll give it to him. Good point.
Well, we're looking forward to the Super Bowl. We appreciate you taking the time, as always, to join us here on After the Horn. Woody's going to San Francisco. He'll be reporting from there starting tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow. Shelby Harris and I will be. It won't be the dancing Harrises.
No, you're
all
going to be
together.
at
Now,
Harris.
do you still cover it the way we used to cover it? Will you still be doing all the things, going to all the news conferences, going to a few parties? What's your game plan for this
I
trip?
think you got that backward. I'll be going to most of the parties.
trying to fit in an interview
going,
or two.
I'm going to the media party tonight, which is in a place called Redwood City.
They
Okay.
still have the media party?
Yeah, on Tuesday night.
Now, how many people will be there?
Well, I don't know what's going on in San Francisco. People are not showing up. Usually about 1,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they count people in the media, like squirrels. I mean,
Is it still how many?
Podcasters, you know.
How many accredited media members cover this game now?
They have said over the last 3 or 4 years it's been about 6,000. So, that doesn't make it really. I told him though,
Because that's what it takes to cover.
Oh yeah.
I'll end on my favorite all-time quote, and I told him in the car that when Washington played, I think the Rams, they asked one of the great
The Hogs.
Hogs,
The Hogs, yeah.
what does this game mean to you? And he said, this game is so important to me, I would run over my mother to win the Super Bowl. And they went, wow, that's certainly something. So they're talking to the defensive lineman who lines up against him, and they for the other team, and they said, what does the Super Bowl means to you? Russ Francis, I think it's
Russ Grimm, maybe.
Russ
Russ Grimm
Grimm.
said he would run over his mother to win the Super Bowl. He said, well, I agree with him. I would run over his mother to win the Super Bowl.
Tough
Well,
weekend
can I
for
ask you
Mom.
one more question?
Yeah.
This is important. Are you in the press box? Are you in the auxiliary press box? Or are you somewhere else?
I've become over the last 3 or 4 years. I'm an ox
Ox
guy.
Ox box.
Because the ox could be
In the corners.
up in the foul pole area.
No, but you're not on the real list if you're in a tent outside the
Yeah.
stadium,
Yeah.
and they put a lot of press people.
This is all inside baseball, but we've all been through the old stadium, and we would cover the Broncos, and then the league would come in and say, "Yeah, you guys that been cover, we need the press
you
box
share a
for the
seat?
yeah. Could you share a seat with Paul Zimmerman or what? You guys go down in the south stands there. We'll get you
Find
a
a
little
nice
corner."
I went from being in seat number 1 at the old Mile High Stadium, first row, seat 1.
No, I was in the
middle, on
second
50.
row, seat 1, right behind you.
Right. And so then I become a general columnist for a few years, and I want to go to the Super Bowl. And our favorite Jim, our favorite PR guy,
Sacco?
gives me, it says, playoff game ticket, no seat. I went from seat 1 to
Standing
sat
room
on
only.
there, no seat.
seat.
And I went,
Oh,
really? That's
really? No seat?
how quickly they fall. So where am I going to be? I'm probably going to be in San Jose. Do you know the way to San Jose?
We'll
There's
learn
a lot of things you could do and cover that game remotely and maybe have more fun. Watch it on TV. And,
than being in the mosh pit.
yeah.
Well, we'll see where Woody's covering the Super Bowl from. Again, Super Bowl 60 this weekend. That's it for our Super Bowl edition. Next week, I think, is our post-Super Bowl edition of After the Horn. But thanks, as always, for joining us. You can always reach us.
It's going to be trade deadlines in the NBA.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty to talk about.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
We'll have, when we have Giannis Antetokounmpo as a Denver Nugget, we'll have a lot to talk.
and Ja. They got him
And
both.
Ja.
That's all they need. It's one more injured player that's out for 6 or 8
Another
10
headache.
weeks.
You can always reach us, ATH@gorillasports.net. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here again next week.